Long-term nurture. It's actually quite a short session, this, and I'm guessing it's going to be shorter because there's kind of less of us to engage in a conversation. But when you think about it, this is usually the area that people find the hardest to generate content for. And it's so wasteful. If you've spent all the time, effort, energy, and money to generate leads, and we know our conversion rates are, 0.5% click conversion rates on Facebook, and then 2%, 5%, even 10%. Even if we converted 20% of the leads coming through, which would be really good, that still leaves 80% of the leads that are people who had some kind of interest, but we didn't follow up in. So, gosh, what are we going to do? No idea whatsoever, but I know if I dump them into some kind of holding pattern, then I can return to them and they won't forget who I was. And in a number of industries and a number of people, one of the reasons they don't buy now is they're just not ready to buy now. So if I'm thinking of getting into hypnotherapy, I might be researching it now, but in my mind, I'm thinking maybe 12 months time. It doesn't mean I'm not interested. It just means I'm not ready to buy now. So a good long-term nurture sequence. In 12 months time, when I become ready, what am I going to do? Am I going to go back to Google and start researching again? Well, if the people I've made contact with right now haven't stayed in contact with me, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to start again because I can't remember who you were. With little kickers, the little kickers aspect, I suppose you've got a time imperative going on there as well, as the children are getting older all the time. So There is a little bit of a time imperative. But I mean, I'm guessing you will get parents that inquire when the kid's 5 and they say, oh, this is interesting, this is good. And the kid just goes, no, I'm not going. I don't care what you say. And then all right, okay. But 12 months later, the child's grown and it's a different child, isn't it? So they're then looking for things for the child to do, and it suddenly turns out that the child is interested in football, for example, because they've grown up, because some of their mates at school have now started playing football, and they play football in the playground that they didn't do before. And so that's kind of the concept. I'm sure you get the concept well. So it's just planning out that long-term kind of nurture it's actually easy to do, and I'll show you how. I'll show you some tricks, but it's the thing that is really quite difficult for many businesses to just get their head around it. Okay, so we're going to look at the originating concept. I'll point you in the direction of a couple of a particular person I got a lot of inspiration from. Then long-term, immediate follow-up in the context of long-term nurture is a bit of an oxymoron, really, isn't it? But we'll cover that to just show you how to just extend the immediate follow-up a little bit, and then really look at the long-term nurture kind of after that, because they're not hugely different. So I don't know how well that transmits through the screen, but there was a program that was written by a guy called Andre Chaperon, okay? And he wrote a program, an education program called Autoresponder Madness. And he probably wrote it, I'm going to guess, in 2010, something like that. And Andre, at the time, there was lots of affiliate marketeers. So being an affiliate marketeer was a new and a cool and groovy thing. So there were people on the internet who were able to do marketing and sell products. And these were in the days when things like ClickBank was fairly new, and it wasn't very difficult to find products that were nothing to do with you, but you could actually sell as an affiliate and you could make some money. Now, like most things that happen on the internet, only about 1% of the people who got involved actually made any money out of it. Loads of people were selling courses on how to make money out of it. And most people did it kind of in a half-hearted manner and didn't really make any money out of it because they were hoping it was a get-rich-quick scheme. And there is no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme. That doesn't exist. Buy a lottery ticket, but your chances are about the same. But, you know, so Andre was a very, very successful marketeer, affiliate marketeer. And he did then put those thinkings together into a course. So if I just kind of annotate, I know that it'd be very difficult to kind of see on here, but what the concept of Autoresponder Madness is he's got something he calls soap opera sequences. Okay, so he's got a lead, wherever that came from, and he's got other courses now, but at the time, and he's continually sending out emails to the people on his list. Okay, and you just get emails at whatever time spacing is appropriate. And he called these soap opera sequences because you know, he was thinking about, well, how do I communicate with people? What is it I'm saying to these people, and how do I keep them engaged? And he was thinking about soap operas, TV soap operas. So Coronation Street, right, is 60 years old. Mm. They have anything from an episode a day to an episode a week for 60 years. It's in a back street in Salford. Nothing's ever happened. It's the same storyline as it was 60 years ago. These characters have just got old and changed and died. So people watch it. It's got huge viewing figures. So what are it's the engagement with the characters that is the thing that's going on. So that's what Andre was kind of thinking about when he was putting this. And there's a whole section in this. This is not the whole. There's a whole section that he has in his course where he goes through empathy maps and really going into a lot of detail about how you develop the thinking and getting ahead of your audience that's reading these emails. Kind of which is worth doing, and one has to do that to make good soap opera sequences. But it's not that you're telling them something new. You're just keeping in contact with them and telling them something that's going on. You know, and that's the concept there. It doesn't have to be revolutionary things. And what it isn't is buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, because that would just make them unsubscribe. And we all get those emails, don't we? We all continually get those emails from different sorts of people that were on this. And all it really is buy my stuff all the time. And after a while, we just unsubscribe. But we get other emails that are from people that are just telling us stories. So we don't read every single one, but we don't unsubscribe. And then we read it. And what we're going to do is when we're ready, we'll click on something and go and read more about that when it engages with us. So that's kind of his structure, which is just continually keeping contact with people. And then because we've got technology, we know when they click on something in a particular email, we can drop them down into what he calls a product launch sequence. So it might be only 2 or 3 emails, which is, because you've clicked on something, I now know you're interested in this thing. So I'm taking you into a little mini funnel and making you some follow-up offers to get you to buy, and then I'm stopping selling to you. So it was triggered because you're interested. It presents the offer to you and then leaves you alone. But you carry on through the soap opera sequence, and then you might come to another click, in which case it starts either a similar or a completely different product launch sequence. Make sense?
Yeah.
So it's just a simple kind of a way of organizing your thinking. So that was my inspiration, and that's who I stole the idea from. I did buy his product, to be fair. So it was worth, and it was well worth. I've used it many times. I've used the concept forever, and I go back to the product. I think he's now on Autoresponder Madness version 4, so he keeps updating it. But if you're looking for somebody to follow, Andre Chaperon, I would say go and have a look at his stuff. If you like the whole thinking about copywriting and marketing and all that type of stuff, if that's your bag and you like that, he's well worth studying and following. If you don't like that, I would simply say, yeah, pay somebody else to do it then. So do the structural piece, but pay somebody else to do the copywriting. Okay. If you do like copywriting, he's a good person to kind of follow. Right. So immediate follow-up. Okay, that's often a question I get is, well, okay, well, what's the immediate follow-up? What do I say to people? And it's actually quite easy, really, when you think about it. So last week we talked about kind of targeting and market message media. So I'm assuming that by the time somebody's opting in, right, by the time they're opting in over here, we have actually got a reasonable clue as to who they're likely to be. Because before you made the opt-in page or ran adverts that drove traffic to the opt-in page, you went through the process of thinking, well, who is my avatar? And therefore, while it is entirely possible that random people may have found that opt-in page and just opted in and not be your avatar, the chances are that because you've done that thinking first, you know this, probably most of the traffic onto that landing page is these sorts of people because you're the person driving them there, and the page calls out your avatar. So the people that are opting in for the thing, for the lead magnet, are likely to be your avatar. Okay, so okay, cool, right, well, so we just send them the avatar. We send them the lead magnet, that's fine. If it's a quiz, then we can follow up with a quiz based on their answers. If it's a checklist or a report or a book or whatever it is, the chances are that they didn't read it when we sent it to them. So we can send a follow-up email that just explains, well, what was in it. I've got lots of PDFs that I've opted in for but haven't quite got around to reading yet. We all have. So the next follow-up is, hey, thanks for downloading it. By the way, I talk in point number 2, I talk about such and such. Okay. And then, the next email that comes 2 days after that, point number 3, I talk about such and such. And you can have links in there and you can track whether they click on the links or not. And the links can go to, they can go to other people's websites. They don't all have to come to your material. But and in most of these emails, I'd probably have a section at the bottom, which is a link to your offer. So they can go directly to the offer. So here's an explanation, here's some detail. Right, well, what do I do next, Dave? I've run out of ideas. Okay, well, have you got any case studies? So it goes back to, we talked about case studies and referrals and reviews and testimonials a couple of episodes ago. Okay, so if I've got some case studies, I don't need many case studies, but if I've got 2 or 3 avatars, it'd be really quite helpful to have a case study about that avatar. Because if I know that this person is a female professional that's looking to change career and get into hypnotherapy, then it would be good if I sent them a case study that's a female, not a male, that's a similar age, that was a professional, that got into hypnotherapy, that had all these worries and concerns, but turned out it was a good deal and they had a great time on the courses and the education, and now they've got a nice solid practice running. If I'm a female professional 40 to 50, don't send me a case study about a 20-year-old bloke. It's just it's not as good as if I've got a case study of the same as the avatar. And because we know who this person is, probably we can match the case study to it.
Yeah.
Testimonials, we can send those. So I'm probably 1 email, 2, 3 emails to here, 4, 5 emails to here, 6, 7 emails. 8, 9 emails. I could be 9 emails deep here. Then I ask for feedback. Hey, have you got any questions? Then I can send the offer. Now, you don't have to be 9 emails, and you can send the offer after 2 emails. That's, it's not a problem. What I'm trying to illustrate is it's relatively easy to generate more of a longer tail in my immediate follow-up. Okay, so clearly if the opt-in form is to register your child for a trial session, then it's not an opt-in in the same way. It's boom, that's it. We'll get them registered and away you go. So that's not what we're talking about here. It's if the opt-in was to the 5 things you need to know to keep your child entertained and healthy while outdoor activities or something. That's the opt-in that this is generating. If the question was, how do I book? Don't bother with all this. Just tell them how to book and take the booking. But if we've got more of an extended but nevertheless immediate follow-up, so after that, maybe we send them to the offer. We explain the offer, and then we explain the offer again, and then maybe we explain the offer again, and then after that we go, okay, well, I've really worked this lead quite hard. By this point, they may have had 12 emails inside 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever's appropriate, whatever you feel appropriate. I'm kind of going to give up on selling them now, but I'm not giving up on selling them ever. So then you can imagine inside Keap that then you just apply a tag to move them into the long-term nurture sequence. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So, you've already got this content to do this. It's just about setting it up. An email's 200 to 300 words. It's not many words. It doesn't have to be many words. The email is just nudging them and keeping you at the top of their thought process for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, whatever's appropriate. And then we move to long-term nurture.
Can I ask you, David, you, how long is too long to go back to a client? I'll give you the example I'm talking about here. So I built a list a few years back now. And to be honest, I've left them. I haven't nurtured them. They're just, if I sent them an email now, they'd probably go, David Finch, who's he? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of, I'd have to reintroduce myself and get back into it. And these are people that I'd met maybe at exhibitions, shows, whatever. They may have expressed an interest in one or another things that I offer. Yep. But how long is too long? Should I just leave them and move on? Or do you think that, well, there's an opportunity there to go back to say, look, I'm still here, or not?
No, are they still alive?
Yeah, the offer's still there. Yeah, the offer's still there.
No, but if they're still alive, it's not
if they're
too long.
still alive, sorry. I mean, the offer, sorry, I thought you said, is the offer still alive? Sorry.
No, if they're still alive,
if they're still alive, yeah, go for it.
You're quite right. They may not remember who you are.
Might not be. Who knows?
You've got to think about that. So, okay, so they were interested. If there's any way that you do know roughly what they were interested in, that's helpful. But even if you don't, then it's just a cold email. But that's okay.
Yeah.
And hey, I apologise. I haven't been in contact for a while. Last time we communicated, it was about this subject. I don't know whether that's still relevant to you. I'm changed a little bit. I'm doing this. I'd love to hear what your interests are now.
Yeah.
Well, that's an acceptable email to receive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it feigns interest. Now, they don't know that you sent that email to 500, 1,000 people all in the same go. They read it as a personal email. And while we know how the email technology works, not everybody does. So unless you're in the marketing space or owning a business, you would be surprised, I'm sure, that most people just take your email at face value that it was emailed to them. You know,
Yeah.
they don't think, oh, that's a marketing email.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can tell marketing emails because you can tell the voice it's written in.
Yeah.
So don't write it in that voice, write it in a personal communication voice. You know, sit there and think, well, this is, what would I say? You know, and write a really, really personal email and then send it to 1,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the 1,000 people, you know, and if you're doing that, you're not asking them to click on a link and go to a sales page. You just said, email me back. Love to hear. Just drop me an email and just hit reply and let me know how you're getting on. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, right. Well, we've then got replies that are coming in. So we have to then figure out, well, how do we get replies into our automation and all that? Well, that can actually be done. We probably use Zapier to do that and apply tags and all sorts of things that we can parse emails and do that. Or if you're doing it, you know, 100 people, what are you going to get? 10 replies?
Yeah.
Well, you can deal with 10 replies. Yeah. Just, you know, there's a 10 people that are interested. So, okay, log into your Keap system and apply a tag to start off the next thing. And, okay, that might be manual. Right. Well, I'd rather it wasn't manual, but it's only 10 people that are interested. So, great, we can do that and then kind of move them forward. Or they've replied and they're interested. Phone them up, talk to them. It depends on the context of the reply. So, you know, to answer, and I think you were spot on, you have to reintroduce yourself to them. Well, what's the harm?
Yeah. What's the problem? Yeah. No, I think it's a good idea. Yeah.
There's no harm. I would just think about how you do that to re-engage them. Pretend you're a human being rather than pretending you're a robot.
Yeah.
And you'll have better results.
Yeah. No, that's right. And yeah, I suppose really I've had my marketing head on, whereas like you say, don't send it as a market, just like, hey, how you doing? You know, I haven't been in touch for a while, but you know, this is what I'm doing. What are you doing? And I think that's a really nice approach actually, rather than saying, hey, look, I've got something new to sell you, you know.
Exactly. That's what we want to, we're going to do that, but we're going to do that after we re-establish the content.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Okay. No, that's brilliant. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, cool. So that's kind of the immediate follow-up. If you just think about that as, okay, well, what do we do in the long-term nurture, right? So fundamentally, I just redrawn in boxes what Andre drawn in that illustration that was a bit harder to follow, but it's like relevant content. You're sending out to these people. And when they click on something, a tag gets applied. When they click on it, doesn't stop them in the sequence, but it drops them into another sequence and they get their offers. And we just do that. So some of the things they're not going to click on and other things they may click on. Okay. And, you know, it's not necessarily that every email's got a link click in it. You know, it might be you've just written an email and there's nothing for them to click. There's nothing for them to buy. You're just communicating with them. And that's a long-term kind of nurture kind of approach. Okay, here's a picture out of one of our Infusionsoft apps. And as you can see, you know, a tag starts it and then you've got month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then if they click on the thing in month 1, it just starts a sequence for month 1. They click on the thing in month 3, it starts month 3, month 2, and all that. And, you know, that actual campaign, if you want that campaign, talk to your coach and they'll push it into your app. So that structure will just arrive. Obviously, you'd have to populate it with relevant content for you. That's the same thing, just slightly more elaborate over 12 months in that case. So, you know, it just goes through and it starts and then month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, month 5, and it just goes on like that. So that's if it's a kind of a sequential month 1, month 2. That one, which is probably harder to see on the screen because it's smaller, but the word here says January. February, March. So it starts all the sequences, but there's a timer in each of the sequences that's got a date on it, which is the 5th of January. And in this one, it's the 12th of February or whatever. So the person goes into the sequence, they're immediately queued up for 12 monthly emails, but they don't get the emails until the correct date. And then once they've got the emails, this all just this just loops it around and starts it again for the next year. And then this is exactly the same idea. You know, if they click on something, it goes through and starts the product launch process and the little sequence, product launch sequence there for any things that they click on. And again, all three of these campaigns, you just ask your coach and they'll push them into your app and then work with you on, okay, this is how you set it up. You come up with the context and the content, but you don't need to draw this out. We've already done all that for you. You can have it as a template to start with.
Brilliant.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I did this chart this morning, kind of laughingly to myself, calling it a planning sheet, because it's like, it's the simplest planning sheet in the world, but it really is this easy to think it through. Because, what can I talk about? What can I talk about? Okay, so the easiest thing about, well, January is the new year, isn't it? So whatever your business is, it doesn't matter what your business is. In January, we're talking about new year, fresh starts, new things. February is Valentine's Day. Don't know what happens in March. Something does. If you Google what happens in every month of the year, there's almost every day of the year, there's an event. Every month of the year, there's a big thing. You know, you can go through the year in the context of your business and come up with some excuse to be communicating with people, some cutie way of wrapping it up. But, you know, just get a sheet of paper with some columns on it and you go, okay, so what's topic 1? What are we talking about in January? Right? What's topic 2 in January? What's topic 3 in January? You only need one topic, but you can add more. So, for example, in the January sequence, you might say, well, I'm only going to send them one email. So that means in the year, you just need to come up with 12 emails.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you might say, okay, I've got my 12 emails. I'm now going to create another 12 emails because I'm moving from monthly to fortnightly. All right, we only need 24 emails, don't you? All right, but I wouldn't try and write 52 emails. I'd write 12. And then I'd write another 12. And then I'd write another 12. I've no idea where the other 4 disappeared in the mathematics, but that's kind of the way it works. I guess it's because some months have 5 weeks in them.
Yeah.
Most have 4. So, but it's not that difficult if you don't get overawed by, I need to send these people an email every day or every week. Yeah, send them one a month. That's better than nothing. And then kind of work backwards from there. You know, and you know, in the topic as you're going through kind of changes. Maybe, you know, it changes from one sort of camp to summer camps. You know, the topic matter might change within it, and then just jot down, well, what's the offer? If they click on something, what is the offer that I'm going to do here? What's my little sequence? And you may only come up with one offer. You may just have one thing, which is a trial, for example, a trial session. That's cool. So any click on anything drops them into the trial session sequence, maybe. And then technologically, you just have that's got a tag at the end that takes them out of the sequence. So the next time they click, they could drop into the sequence.
That makes sense. Yeah, sounds good.
Or you can have it set up that you've got the offer is the trial, for example, but you know, it's called trial 1, trial 2, trial 3. So when they click on the first link, they go into the first sequence. When they click on the second link, it knows not to put them in the first sequence, and it puts them in the second sequence, because you might want different wording because this is the second time they've seen it. The third time you might have, okay, this person is extremely interested because they keep clicking on my emails. I'm actually going to call them up rather than send them emails, because I've sent them 2 sets of emails and they haven't responded, so I'm going to make an outbound telephone call. But I haven't got enough resources to be phoning everybody up. But I want to pick and choose. But I'm going to be finding those people, tracking them down. If I haven't got their telephone number, maybe I'm going to go and find them on Facebook or something and message them on Facebook. Whatever. That's one of the few benefits of connecting with people on Facebook, is then you can message them. So I'm not a huge user of Facebook. I'm not a huge fan of Facebook, because my business is more B2B rather than B2C anyway. But there are some advantages of having lots of people that you're actually connected with your business persona or your page on Facebook, because then you can, if they're refusing to answer your emails, you can at least message them. I mean, they might refuse to answer your Facebook messages as well, but at least it's another thing. I don't know if your your prospects, whether they're WhatsApp users or not.
Yeah, we've got a few. It's got a lot of parents, and then we've got like a little WhatsApp button on the Facebook page as well. On the top of it as well, and we get a few through. They're not a lot, but we get a few different ones rather than Facebook messages, something a little bit different. We get a number as well, which is good.
Well, some people use WhatsApp a lot, and local services are kind of doing well with WhatsApp. It depends on whether your customer has gotten into WhatsApp. So in the business groups I'm in, the Ideal Result business groups, for example, everything's done in WhatsApp. And I know one of my clients who runs kind of accounting and bookkeeping services for subcontractors. He does a lot of business through WhatsApp. I know my wife, our kids are a bit older than little Kicker's kids, but my wife, she has WhatsApp groups all over the place. And other people I know don't even have the app on their phone. So, the more ways that you can communicate with people, the more people you're going to communicate with. And it's just a matter of finding, that's not working, so I'm going to try this, and then that didn't work, so what's the next thing? And slowly you build up, because it's all overhead, isn't it? It's all work overhead to do all these different things. But if that's how your customer wants to communicate, then fine. I guess that's the medium we'll have to move into. Okay, so hey, look, frankly, that's not that much of a planning sheet, but you get the idea. It's just right. If you're struggling to think of what content you're going to go in there, just write the months across the top, a couple of topics down the side, and then just put in, well, this topic, what are we talking about in January? What's the nuance of January? Scribble that down, right? And it won't be difficult to fill in the sheet. There you go. Now create the emails. And we're done. 12 emails, one topic, 12 emails, 300 words per email, 200, 300 words. That's all we're talking about. Okay. If you want to get a little bit more sophisticated than that, you could write or have written, that should say 600, a kind of a blog, a piece of content. So 600 to a blog is about 600 to 1,000 words. If you ask Google, Google thinks a decent piece of content is about 3,000 words. 3,000 is a lot of words.
Yeah.
That's a lot of words. And I'm not talking about SEO type stuff here. I'm talking about something that you can put in your emails that you're sending to people such that they can click on it and then come through. And what we're looking for, watching for, is the click. Okay. So, for example, I've outsourced the creation of this to a copywriter. Okay. It's not that I can't do it. It's that I wouldn't get round to doing it. So I've just outsourced it to somebody who's going to do it. Okay. So I've got that kind of going on. Or, you could jot down these blogs and get them into existence. So For content, you could use listicles. So a listicles, instead of article, a listicle, it's, lists of things. So lists of things that there are about, hypnotherapy. You're just creating that content. People quite like lists. It's easy to read. It gives them some structure in it. You wrote down, it's the same as the lead magnet, the 5 things that you need to know if such and such. In the blog, it might be the 10 most covered topics in the hypnotherapy industry.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you could research that and find it out, but you probably know the answer to most of them anyway, and you just write it. It's a short article. Okay. By commentary, I mean, if you're in the industry, right, so you're seeing things all the time. So you could write an article about somebody else's article. It's a commentary on it. I saw this, and my thoughts on that are this, right? So somebody's taken the time to write a great big long article in the Times or whatever, and you're just commenting on what they said.
Yeah.
So you're kind of hijacking the content. You reference it properly and all that. It can be controversial. It's not you being controversial. It's you're referencing that. So it can be kind of clickbaity.
Yeah.
Consolidation, again, you can pull together other people's things. So as people are publishing content, you can say the weekly summary of the news in the hypnotherapy industry is this piece here, this piece here, this piece here, this piece here. So you've pulled it together. So you've acted as the consolidating editor. Same in for little kickers is, is the bits of news going on, in an area? What's, who's winning the leagues at the moment? Who won the matches this last week? Because they're all published on the different leagues' websites. You just pull it together and put it together on your blog, for example, and then your email just references that. So if you want to keep up to date with what's going on, open my emails and read it. Okay. And like I say, the article, the originating content does not need to be yours. You can just reference somebody else's content. You could write an email for 300 words to say, go and look at this thing on this other website over here. What we're looking for and measuring with the technology is the link being clicked that's an expression of interest. So again, not that difficult to do. Right, so you've got your blog post or somebody else's blog post. Then you write 200 or 300 words and link it to that content. And then, your social media posts are, again, linking back to that piece of content. So, what's on this slide is commonly used. So almost everybody suggests you do the same thing. This is not new news to anybody. And obviously whatever social media makes sense to you, B2B, maybe it's LinkedIn, B2C, I don't know. Where is your audience? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Are they on Pinterest? Are they on TikTok? Wherever they are. Have you got a TikTok account, George?
I did have one back when it all started, about whenever it was, start of the year, wasn't it? Or start about this time last year. And then I posted a couple of videos for through Little Kickers, actually. We made a Little Kickers account. We've got some coaches doing a couple of bits and pieces when I was with James. But yeah, I've left it with him. Yeah, I don't think he's done anything with it since.
Yeah, no, the trouble with content of any description is you've got to be continually interested in making it. It takes time, it takes energy. So it's got to ring your bell. And, for some people, they just love making TikTok videos.
Yeah.
Well, great. If that's not you, then don't beat yourself up about it. There are a lot of people that watch TikTok videos. So it kind of makes sense. And if that's the media where the audience is, go where the hungry crowd is. And it's just getting in the habit of kind of making little video pieces. If it's not TikTok, it could be, Facebook stories or Instagram stories. you know, and that would be the same, potentially the same content. I mean, I used to watch a lot of TikTok stuff because I found it very entertaining. I've kind of got out of the habit, and I'm quite pleased to have got out of the habit. I used to see an awful lot of kind of woodworking videos and that type of stuff because I found them fascinatingly interesting. So TikTok obviously served me what I appeared to be interested in. So I got all these kind of woodworking videos coming through, and that did eventually get a little bit boring. But, you know, whatever is the content that you're good at generating, then that's fine. But the point is that we're really driving that to our blog content. And on the blog content, there's some kind of opt-in for our lead magnet thing to get them on the list, because the whole point of this is that we get them on the email list. You know? So we're using the same content and repurposing it as much as possible, but kind of don't get overawed with it. Just start with 12 pieces of content, one a month is a perfectly good long-term nurture sequence and better than nothing, you know. And you can even cycle it. So a piece of content that somebody's read in January 2019, they won't remember that you're sending them the same email in January 2020. You know, so you can cycle it back through. It doesn't necessarily need to be refreshed every year. I mean, you could have some base stuff that isn't refreshed every year, and then you intermittently put some new stuff in it. Like, so the difference between January 2019 and 2020, obviously, is in 2019 you didn't refer to COVID, and 2020 it would be slightly weird if you didn't refer to COVID. You know, so there are some things that kind of might change, but base content, you know, the content and the email that's going out that talks about it's a new year, whatever happened last year, put it behind you, and let's move on this year. That email doesn't actually need to talk about COVID at all. It can, you know, and that could recycle every single year if you wanted it to. Okay, cool. So that's it. You know, it's put something together that represents these two things. You don't even have to worry about creating the Keap campaigns, because we can just give them as the structure to you, and then just put some content together. And what we're looking about is, after you've given up with your immediate sell, drop them into the long-term nurture, and they're being looked after.
Yeah.
I was going to say forget about them, but we're not really forgetting about them, because we're going to return to them at some point in the future. But at least we know we don't get to the situation, David, where you've got, you know, I don't know how many it is, but, you know, multiple people on the list that you haven't talked to for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, now that just doesn't occur.
Yeah, that's it. So how long would you keep this going for then, David? If you know, you went through a whole year and then they never clicked, they never sort of, you know, clicked on any of these offers. I know you can see whether they open the emails and so on. So, you know, if they open the emails and they was reading the content, let's say, we assume they are alive. How long, what would you go? 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? What would you do?
Go on forever. It's a good question, and it really talks more to list hygiene. So I would periodically, you're looking at your list and you're trying to figure out, is anybody engaging at all? Okay. So by default, I've put them in the long-term nurture, and by default, I'm going just cycling around forever.
Yeah.
And then periodically, I'm looking at my list, and there's tools in Keap that you can see when the last time somebody engaged. Okay, well, these people haven't engaged for 12 months. They haven't opened an email. They haven't unsubscribed. They haven't complained about me spamming them, but they haven't opened an email. So it's not costing me anything to keep them going.
Yeah.
Potentially, it might be undermining my email deliverability, potentially. So email deliverability is a thing, and it's an important thing. But it, you know, if you're only sending out, if you list 1,000 people, I wouldn't worry too much about email deliverability. You're not big enough to be getting penalised. If you list 20,000 people, okay, you need to start thinking about email deliverability and cleaning your list up. But you know, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, you're probably so low on the radar that
I'm still in the hundreds, to be honest with you, David. I'm still in the hundreds.
So email doesn't really matter. What the challenge is to look at it and go, well, I've got these 50, 60, 100 people that aren't engaging in the content. It's no problem to keep them cycling around, but it's not really getting me anything. So what am I going to do instead? And if the answer to that question is nothing.
Yeah, exactly what I've been doing.
just let the automation go. A better answer is, okay, I'm going to look at these and I'm going to figure out who they are. And if I think there's a real potential there, I'm going to do something different. And if I think, you know what, I remember this guy, he wasn't that interested in the first place. I'm just going to delete him off my list. You know, although if you're underneath the list limit, I wouldn't even bother deleting them off the list. You know, I only want to delete them off the list if I've gone past my 2,500.
Yeah.
Or then I'm paying for them to be on the list.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
but if I'm under the 2,500, I'm not even paying. You know, I get that included, so just leave them alone.
Yeah. Okay.
That's probably where I'd go, and spend more time worrying about how to get more people on the list rather than removing people who are engaged. It's not doing any benefit, but it's all automated, so it's not actually costing you much time.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks, David. That's a good answer. Yeah. Cheers.